Welcome to another special flashback episode, Tuesday Review listeners. I'm James.
I'm Nathan.
And I'm Callum.
And we just thought we'd quickly introduce the next in our line of old episodes that we're re-uploading. This is the second Star Wars special that we did back in December 2017. So this is a year after the first special came out, just before The Last Jedi was coming out.
And boy, were we excited.
Oh, well, yeah, we had some hopes. I had a cold at the time, so excuse my blocked sinuses. Also, we only had the hour on live radio, so I'm just like rapid fire talking really, really fast, and just Nathan and Callum get steamrolled. Like they can't get a word in. But
the pressure was there.
Yeah, it was just like I had to get all this because in the first Star Wars special, barely scratched the surface as to why.
Back
Force
in the days
Awakens,
when you used to bring in like a pad of notes.
I had pages and pages of notes, and I was like, I need to get all of before Last Jedi comes out. I need to talk about why the Force Awakens is truly that terrible. And yeah,
we say this a lot off the air as well. Little did we know how chill we would end up being. Because it used to be like, we have the hour, how are we going to fill the hour?
Well, now,
the only episodes we can really fill are the Star Wars episodes.
Yeah, well, yeah, and it's like now, like just what we're doing now, we're just chilling in the studio talking about it.
Usually we can run up to 3 hours on the normal week.
Yeah, it's so different now. But yeah, so in this second Star Wars special, we talk more about Force Awakens, which again is important for the context for our Rise of Skywalker review coming up soon, and JJ returning for that. I go on a rant about Boba Fett for like 20 minutes.
I remember that.
But you do that when you're not on.
Yeah, But like, I feel like some people might listen to this and just be like, this is so boring and nerdy. But like, the reason I do it is to provide.
It was about character building.
Yeah, exactly, and how to contrast how the originals do it so well and how the new movies do it so poorly. And what's funny is because this was just before Last Jedi came out, so we're talking about our theories, like what's going to happen, and we were just singing Rian Johnson's praises, being like, he's a really good filmmaker, But that was before the dark times, before we knew what he would do.
Before the subversion.
Yeah, we thought everything would be explained. We were questioning all these unanswered questions in Force Awakens, and then we were like, I'm sure Rian Johnson, The Last Jedi, will answer them. Nope.
He did Looper and Brick. How bad can it be?
Yeah, we were just like, oh my god, he just does so well with the character development and dialogue. Nope, apparently not. Also, this was before the Disney Fox merger, so we were kind of like, simpler times. But yeah, hope you enjoy this special flashback episode for the second Star Wars special. Sound the alarm! Welcome to the second Man vs. Movies Star Wars special, live here on 98.9 Northwest FM. I'm your host James, and lock S-foils into attack position, because tonight we're talking all things Star Wars. I'm joined in the studio again by Callum and Nathan.
How you going?
I think the first episode of my show you guys were on with us was the first Star Wars special, so it's good to have you back for this one. If you haven't listened to the first Man vs. Movies Star Wars special, that was all the way back in episode 8 of the show. You can download that, the podcast of that, on iTunes, Shout Engine, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Again, my sinuses are still blocked, so hopefully that's not too bad for listeners out there. I apologize. Yeah, so I guess we've got a lot to get through, so we'll just jump right in. Star Wars, everyone loves it. We love it. I rewatched the original movies a couple days ago. Still amazing. Rewatched the Force Awakens yesterday. Still terrible.
Did you rewatch Rogue One?
No. There's no point.
Not necessarily.
The only reason I rewatched Force Awakens is because it leads into The Last Jedi, which is coming out tomorrow night. So, which we're all going to see.
Just a quick point for the listeners. If you haven't seen The Force Awakens and you want to see The Last Jedi at the midnight launch, they are playing The Force Awakens before The Last Jedi at the cinemas.
On Wednesday night?
On Wednesday night.
Okay, that's cool.
So if you haven't seen it and you're thinking about it...
Or
if
you want to rewatch it to get refresh.
Yeah, or if you want to refresh yourself before The Last Jedi. It'll take a bit of stamina, but it's probably worth it.
Yeah. I mean, if people have listened to more than one episode of the show, they know I don't like. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but I don't like Force Awakens.
No one hates Star Wars like Star Wars fans.
Exactly. So, like I said, if you haven't listened to the first Star Wars special, it was episode 8 of Man vs. Movies, and I recommend listening to that one first before listening to this one, just because I get all, I talk about all the stuff I didn't like about Force Awakens, and I talk about why the original movies are so great and why the Force Awakens doesn't live up to that.
Grumpiness alert.
Yeah, definitely. Grumpiness alert for tonight's show as well. I'm not, I'm gonna be in a pretty crappy mood, but yeah, I think it's important because I pretty much explained all that stuff in that first Star Wars special, and I don't want to kind of repeat myself again. We will be talking a bit more about Force Awakens tonight, but don't let that scare you off. Like, stick around because we'll be talking about what we want from The Last Jedi and the future of the franchise as well. But I recommend, listening to the first special just because it'll provide a lot of context for what I'm going to talk about tonight as well. Yeah, so I guess there's so much stuff I wanted to talk about with Force Awakens that, I didn't even get a chance to talk about the first time around because it's such a bad movie, and then there's so much stuff that I have to get through. I ran out of time last time, but I won't go into it all again because it's like beating a dead bantha. But I think one of the problems that keeps coming up is that I think Force Awakens was an overcorrection, and I think people were so hurt by the prequels that any sign of going in the right direction sends them into a frenzy. So I think if the prequels didn't exist, The Force Awakens would have been a completely different movie. And I think just the fact that the prequels existed and people were so negative towards them is why The Force Awakens is why it is.
I sort of disagree a little bit because I feel like The Force Awakens was also a bit of a soft reboot. So if we didn't have the prequels, we would still have that large time gap.
That's what I'm saying is it's a reboot because people didn't want the prequels. So J.J. Abrams came in and he said, let's just do A New Hope again. You know what I mean? It's his stormtroopers, his TIE fighters, his lightsabers. It's a safe zone. He was just letting people know this is Star Wars, and I think that's a problem.
If the prequels were a great success, they probably wouldn't have stopped making Star Wars movies. Like, I think that if everyone was
on board with the prequels, it probably just would have kept going on with the sequels or whatever. So we would have got a completely different lineup. And I think Force Awakens would have been a much better movie because I think one of the problems with Force Awakens is they're focusing so much on trying not to be the prequels that they forgot to make a good movie. And it brings nothing. It brings nothing new to the table, and so it's a bad sequel because it's not developing the characters. It's not building the world. It's just like, here's all the old stuff you remember, and it becomes pointless because it's just a refresher. It's just a reboot. It's just a member berry you pop in your mouth, and it's like, hey, remember all this cool stuff you liked?
I remember.
I remember. It's fantastic.
Fantastic.
And so. Yeah, it's that kind of movie. It's just a nostalgia trip. It's nothing. There's nothing new contained in it. Nothing in the story needs to really happen. It's all quite pointless. And I rewatched it last night, and halfway through, it just like the second half of that movie just takes a huge nosedive where nothing in it needs to happen. Once they get off Jakku. And it's like they just happen to be found by Han Solo, who's been looking for that ship for so long. And then they just happen to be found by the bounty hunters. And then
there's a lot of coincidence.
Yeah, and then there's that horrible Rathtar sequence where they get chased around the ship with that giant CGI blob, which I still don't understand why people forgave that. Like, that is something ripped straight out of the prequels. It's this big blobby alien with tentacles rolling down the hallways chasing them. And they're all like, wappa wappa, like running away. And I'm like, this is something out of Attack of the Clones. Like, this is ridiculous. But people were fine because it was Han Solo. People were fine because it was a practical set and not CGI. And I think that's the problem with Force Awakens is people were so hurt by the prequels that any sign of the originals they're on board. Like, there's no care of the story or the world or the characters or whatever. It's just, as long as there's no midi-chlorians, as long as there's no CGI crap everywhere, which there ends up
no
being
Space
in Force
Jesus?
Awakens. No Space Jesus. Well, Rey is Space Superman, so I think it's close. See, again, people don't want to see the similarities with the prequels. I think one thing I don't like about Force Awakens is it's as bad as the prequels for different reasons. And I know people that statement will send people, running or trying to kill me.
I feel a stirring in the Force.
Yeah, so the prequels are bad because they over-explain things, right? But the Force Awakens is bad because it doesn't explain anything.
Hold on. There's also a lot of terrible acting in the prequels.
No, well, that's true. The performances are better in Force Awakens. But, whereas in the prequels, it's like, it's not funny at all. The Force Awakens is too funny. Like, it's a joke. It becomes a comedy, like slapstick.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, it's an overcorrection. The Force Awakens is not a movie. It's a reaction to the prequels. It's something saying, hey, this isn't the prequels. Don't worry, guys. We got you. It's a safety blanket. It's a dummy. It's a warm hug. It's just something to make sure that you don't, we're not going to hurt you again, It was that. It wasn't a movie.
The bad man is gone.
Yeah, exactly. The first line of Force Awakens is, this will begin to make things right. Like, I think that might have been a jab at George Lucas. Like, we're gonna, and that's fine. I understand why people like that, but it's not a movie. It's like I said, it's a signal to say, it's okay, guys. This is more like the originals, and they end up just pretty much remaking the original movie. It's a joke, and I think in that way, it's a bad sequel because it doesn't further the journey of the characters. Luke's is absent for the entire movie. Leia only has 5, maybe 10 minutes of screen time. Doesn't really have any development there.
And Harrison Ford probably only agreed if he can die in the
exactly. And so he literally sleepwalks through the film, and he doesn't really have anything to do. And when he dies, I should have said this is spoilers for all of Star Wars except for Last Jedi because Last Jedi hasn't come out yet. So, if you're listening, will be spoilers for every Star Wars property other than Last Jedi. But yeah, when he dies, it's like completely devoid of emotion because it's like, well, one, you see it coming a mile away because they walk on right to that ridiculous bridge, which is just so, oh my God.
To be fair, it was also the worst kept secret in Star Wars history.
Yeah, true. But also, like I think I said, in the first Star Wars special, like Kylo Ren is the only character with any development, and that scene is really about Kylo Ren and not about Harrison Ford, not about Han Solo. And so, none of the older characters, the original trilogy core group, get any development. They have no reason for being there, and all the new characters are just kind of along for the ride. And so, like, as soon as Han Solo shows up in that movie, he hijacks the whole movie from Rey and Finn, who are the new characters who we should be following. And so it kind of gets bogged down and it gets sidetracked. And, and then Rey gets kidnapped and she disappears for 10 minutes of the movie.
And then she turns out to be really strong.
And then she's never even heard of the Force before. And she ends up being
And she knows
Superman.
exactly how to use those skills.
That mind trick.
That annoyed me, yeah.
That mind trick, it's mind you, this is the first time she's ever used the Force in the whole movie. It's about an hour and 25, hour and 30 minutes into the movie.
That's probably one of my major problems with the movie.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but in the old canon, isn't the mind trick one of the hardest things to pull off?
I mentioned it in the first Star Wars special, like, it takes Luke 3 movies to do the mind trick. Like, for him, it's a struggle, there's that time where he needs to develop his powers, where Rey does every Force power imaginable in the one movie. At the end of the movie, actually, before, no training, even no knowledge that the Force even... She's never even heard of the Jedi mind trick. She just starts telling the Stormtrooper what to do.
Jedis are a myth in this movie as well, keep in mind.
Exactly, and again, it's a reboot because no one's heard of Jedis again, because even though Luke has restarted his school...
It's only been 30 years, but all of a sudden they're now a myth who's just talking about in whispers.
Like, it's so like... It's like I said as well, like, they blow up the Starkiller base blows up the entire Republic, like all the Republic planets, literally rebooting the universe so that there's only the Resistance who are the rebels and there's only the First Order who are the Empire. Like, like I said, it's not a movie. It's like like they're just rebooting it so they can start from where the original movie started. And I think if the prequels weren't as bad, Force Awakens wouldn't have done that. It would have been an actual sequel to The Return of the Jedi, and we would have followed Luke. I think a better way to do Force Awakens is if it was more like Raiders of the Lost Ark, where Rey is a young, Force-sensitive person who is seeking out Luke, trying to find his secret Jedi school that no one knows. And it becomes like a kind of like an adventure. Like she's trying to find this, mythical, Jedi who's saved the galaxy, and she goes on an adventure. And then halfway through the movie, she finds him and, becomes, she trains with them. And instead of like the First Order just being the Empire, there's maybe someone and a bad guy looking for Luke as well.
And instead we got Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, where Harrison Ford hides in a fridge.
What was I going to say? And then Starkiller Base is just even worse, because it's like another Death Star. Let's just face it, it's another Death Star, except this time it's bigger.
And they have a bloody trash compactor gag.
Oh my god, let's talk about Captain Phasma. All right. I'm cracking my fingers for this. All right, get into my chair. Gwendolyn Christie, awesome actor. I love Game of Thrones. So they cast her as Captain Phasma. She looks cool, whatever. Silver Stormtrooper. I've said before, I don't like the design of the new Stormtroopers. They're too similar to the original Stormtroopers. There's nothing different there. And two, they're kind of rounded and they look kind of chubby and they kind of have this weird smile on their face. It's not a good design, but whatever. She's the silver version. Cool, whatever. She shows up at the start of the movie. The start of Force Awakens is terrible because, all the Stormtroopers are shooting at these resistance people in this little desert village. There's no sense of tension. You don't know who these people are. You don't know whatever. Then Kylo Ren's shuttle lands. And the door just opens and he runs out. There's no sense of anticipation. In the original movies, Return of the Jedi is a good example. The start of Return of the Jedi, when Darth Vader's shuttle lands on the second Death Star, you see the ramp that comes out of the bottom of the shuttle.
Yep.
Before it opens, there's just whirring and clicking sounds. And there's this really tense, sense of anticipation. And if you haven't seen the movie before, you're not exactly sure who's on the ship. If you have seen the movie before, it's Darth Vader, and you still get that prickly feeling on the back of your neck. It's just the whirring and clicking, and then the ramp slowly moves down, and then you see Darth Vader, descend the ramp and come out into the hangar bay, and then he threatens the commander of the Death Star to get construction move. We should double our efforts. And compare that with Force Awakens, where Kylo just runs out. There's no sense of anticipation, whatever. He's the new bad guy of this series of movies, but whatever, he just runs out. Then after he's threatening the villagers and whatever, Captain Phasma just comes out behind him. She just appears. There's no introduction of Captain Phasma at all. She just kind of appears, and I guess you're supposed to believe she's one of the commanders, whatever. But you never actually see her fighting, with the Stormtroopers in the village before that. So she hasn't really done anything before that. Then Kylo tells the Stormtroopers to kill the villagers, and Captain Phasma gives the order. So I guess she's a bad guy. Then Finn goes back to Starkiller Base. It takes off his helmet. And Captain Phasma tells him, who told you could take off your helmet. Then you don't see her pretty much for the whole movie. There is one scene where General Hux is giving a big speech. General Hux is another stupid character, which I won't get into. All the characters are stupid. It's
Speaking of General
movie.
Hux, what annoyed me about the casting of...
He's too young.
He'd never seen the movies before.
Really?
No. He's I had to prepare for this role, and he's we started shooting, and he's I had to go and see all the movies again. I'm why would you audition? How can you?
No, an actor is an actor. They don't care. It's a role for them. I know,
but it's
I like the actor. I just don't like the character, which is a problem with all of Force Awakens. But anyway, so there is that scene where they blow up the Republic planets, where Captain Phasma is standing in the background. But other than that, you don't see her until the very end of the movie, where they literally turn her into a joke. Like everything else in the Force Awakens, it's a joke. And they force her to turn off the deflector shields for Starkiller Base. And then they're like, oh, is there a trash compactor? Let's throw her in. And then cut, and she's not there anymore. So literally this character has done nothing the whole over 2 hours of this movie. And people are like, oh, but she's cool. Oh, but she'll be in Last Jedi. But like I said, we don't have to watch Empire to understand the characters in Star Wars. Like, it's ridiculous that I have to watch Last Jedi just to understand who this character is. So it's a terrible character, but it's an easily fixable thing. So you could have had her lead the charge on Jakku at the beginning. She should have been in with the stormtroopers killing villagers, so you understand. There could have been that when Kylo comes off the shuttle, all the stormtroopers should have stood to attention, and then you could have cut to Captain Phasma, and everyone's like, oh, they're standing to attention because Captain Phasma's the boss, but then she stands to attention as well. And then Kylo comes up behind her, and oh, this guy's the big boss. It's visual filmmaking. It's stuff the original movies do so well that J.J. Abrams has no concept of.
I also feel like a problem seems to be that they didn't really think about what a person would actually do in any given situation. So, as you said, Phasma should have led the charge.
Exactly.
The stormtrooper. Like, you would think in a real-life situation, she would lead the charge.
Yeah. It's not even real life. It's like, it's writing a script. This is how you develop characters. This is how you portray a world, The original movies are so great at this, and J.J. Abrams he's terrible at this stuff. Then later in the film, you have the scene where Finn gets the lightsaber, because why not? I mean, I don't know. And then he's like, runs out and he just stabs a stormtrooper in the chest. Like, even though like hours before he had been a stormtrooper, this is probably a guy he knew. He just yells. He's like, ah, and he just stabs a stormtrooper. It's insane.
It's kill or be killed in the streets.
No way. It's not even self-defense. You can't even defend it. Anyway. Then another stormtrooper comes up. This is a bit where I laugh out loud, and he yells at Finn, traitor, and he drops his gun and he pulls out this electric rod thing. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. I laugh out loud, right? And then he fights. I'm like, why wasn't that Captain Phasma? Like, why wasn't she like, hey, I trained you. Yeah. I'm going to own you.
Because Disney does not support violence against women.
And then there's other problems there.
Let's not derail it.
So there's... And that would have been good for Finn's character as well. He's killing his quote-unquote surrogate mother, if you want. And it would have been better for his storyline as a reformed stormtrooper, which they drop in the first 5 minutes of the movie. They just ignore that. It's terrible beyond words. But then, like, people were like, oh... Captain Phasma, yeah, she doesn't do anything, but she looks cool. She's like Boba Fett. And now I'm like, okay. I'm not having any of this. Boba Fett's my favourite character from the original movies. Not only because he looks cool, but because he's a badass. And I'm going to explain how Empire Strikes Back, mostly through visuals, not even through dialogue, but dialogue as well, presents... Boba Fett as a character, as someone who, you understand just through watching the short bits he's on screen. So the first time you see Boba Fett, he's standing amongst all the other bounty hunters who are all, eccentric characters who all have interesting designs. But he always stands out because he's like the coolest looking dude. And then, Darth Vader says, I want the Millennium Falcon, I want the passengers, the crew alive, and he singles Boba Fett out. He says, no disintegrations. That tells me Boba Fett, he's known for not giving a shit.
Specifically for disintegrations.
He blows stuff up. He's more, if it's wanted dead or alive, he'll go for the dead. Like, he just, he's a badass. So automatically that tells me heaps about... It tells me a lot about the world, about bounty hunters, about, whatever.
Quickly speaking about bounty hunters, the Mandalorian flag is in A Force Awakens, so we can assume that now that is still canon.
Because it's in the Rebels series as well, which is canon technically, Anyway, so we understand a lot about Boba Fett just in that one scene. Then we get that great scene where the Millennium Falcon is flying past the Star Destroyer and it disappears. And the Imperial crew is like, what the hell, where did it go? No ship that small has a cloaking device. And then you see that what they've done is the Han Solo has like attached the Millennium Falcon to the outside of the Star Destroyer so that they can't, they're pretty much, stuck to the Star Destroyer so they can't see them. And then when the Star Destroyer drops its garbage to jump to hyperspace, which is apparently standard procedure, Han Solo detaches the Millennium Falcon and floats away with the garbage so no one can detect him. So we learn a lot there. But then what happens is when they fly away, you see Boba Fett's Slave One in the garbage. Like, he knew what Han Solo... He's one step ahead. So this tells me this guy is super smart, right? This guy is the coolest guy in the galaxy. He knows what Han Solo is going to do before even Han Solo does it. So then they're in Cloud City, and Han Solo finds out that Lando has betrayed them, and Darth Vader is actually... The Empire is already at Cloud City. And you get that cool bit where Han Solo shoots at Darth Vader, and Darth Vader just deflects the laser bolts with his hand, which is really, really cool. But then, who comes out? Boba Fett comes out behind Darth Vader. Oh my god. Like, he got there before Han Solo did, because he knew where Han Solo was going.
Would this void the contract?
What contract?
If Darth Vader is like right there and he's hiring the bounty hunters to capture Han Solo?
The bounty hunter knew Han Solo was going to Cloud City, so he called the Empire and was like, dudes, get to Cloud City ASAP.
Oh, right.
I'll meet you there. Han Solo's going there. Because the Millennium Falcon didn't have hyperdrive, so the Empire could have and Boba Fett could have got there using hyperdrive in a short amount of time and set up before Han Solo got there. It's so cool, like, right? Also, Boba Fett is the man with no name, the Clint Eastwood. He's wearing like a poncho. He's when he walks into the dining room on Cloud City, you can hear spurs, like his feet, like he's a cowboy. Like no one in the movie calls him Boba Fett. They call him the bounty hunter. Like he's literally the man with no name. He's a cowboy. He's a Western character.
He's a Western character in a space Western.
It's really and the movies are Western.
He's a classic bounty hunter.
Yeah, and this is again why the new movies don't understand that the original Star Wars movies have more in common with Westerns and knights in shining armor movies and pirate movies and World War II movies. They have more in common with those than they do with other sci-fi movies. Like, they don't understand.
The only thing about it that's science fiction is the fact that it's in space.
Pretty much, yeah, exactly. So anyway, Boba Fett, we learn heaps about this character, even though he doesn't have a name. He's just a badass dude, right? Then later, they're going to put Han Solo into carbonite, right? No, this is a bit before that. They're torturing Han Solo, right? And Boba Fett says to Darth Vader, "He's no good to me dead." Mind you, this is the theatrical version. When he doesn't have a weird Kiwi accent. Like, this is badass Clint Eastwood sounding Boba Fett, right? He says, "He's no good to me dead." So this guy's talking back to Darth Vader. No one talks back to Darth Vader without getting force choked, right? But this guy's so badass that he doesn't care. He couldn't care less. And
it's because of leverage. Because it's like Boba Fett's reputation is like he can get anything done. So he's worth more to Darth Vader alive.
We understand that reputation with only seeing this character 2 times before this. He, like I said, he doesn't have a name, he doesn't have any backstory, but we understand all this. It's character building.
It takes a powerful character to be able to talk back to Darth Vader. Because even when Darth Vader knows, like, look, I'm not going to kill this dude because he's worth a lot more to me alive than he is dead.
Exactly. Anyway, then later they're putting Han Solo in carbonite, and Darth Vader says, you'll be compensated if Han Solo dies, because then he can't get the money from Jabba the Hutt. So again, we're learning a lot there. The fact that Boba Fett's even allowed in the room, just heaps of stuff. And then at the end, of course, he takes Han Solo on his Slave One ship and gets away. So, he also shoots out with Luke, which is cool too. Like Luke is, finally makes it to Cloud City. He's sneaking around Cloud City. He sees Boba Fett and the troops taking Han Solo and Carbonite down the hallway, and they leave. And then Luke sneaks up, and then Boba Fett doubles back and starts shooting at Luke. Like, he knew Luke was there. Like, this guy's so cool.
Maybe he has the Force.
Maybe he's just probably really good at his job. Anyway, so I love this character so much, mostly because he looks cool, but also because you get a sense of his entire character, his work ethic, his reputation, just through these little things.
And we get none of that with Phasma.
And that's what Phasma should have been like that. You should have been getting those clues to Phasma, like, oh, she's a badass, oh, what's her reputation, We don't get any of that. We might get some of that in Last Jedi, but I shouldn't have to watch Last Jedi to make sense of Force Awakens. And I think this is a problem, a larger problem with Force Awakens is you can pinpoint all the points in the original movies how they develop the characters, how they develop the world. I talked about it in the first special. And if you watch Force Awakens, you don't get any of that. Like, I have no idea who these characters are. They just kind of run around screaming. Like, there's no sense of struggle. There's no sense of reputation. There's no sense of who these people are, where, what this world is. So, I mean, my point is, Phasma is not just like Boba Fett. She's a pointless character who could have been an amazing character, as with Rey, as with Finn, as with all the other characters as well. Like, it would have been easy to make, like I said, Finn's character development could have come alongside Phasma. If you develop Phasma, you develop Finn, and you intertwine those characters, you get, as soon as Finn betrays Phasma, you get automatic reputation for Finn to join the Resistance. Because when he joins the Resistance in Force Awakens, it's kind of like, cause everything in the movie is just cause. They just happen to find the Millennium Falcon.
The characters in Force Awakens are very much throwaway characters.
Exactly.
They're like, you see some of them for maybe 10 minutes each, and then they're going to have another 10 minutes each in Last Jedi, and they'll have another 10 minutes each in Episode 9. So as you said, you were talking about Boba Fett, and we learn a lot about Boba Fett, through what he says and does. And that's missing from not just Phasma, but like pretty much every character in Force Awakens.
I reckon they did it right with Poe.
No, what do you mean? Who's Poe? He's a good pilot? Okay. He literally,
Point taken.
this is another problem with Force Awakens. Nothing needs to happen that happens in the movie. So, all right, so they capture Poe. Poe puts the map to Luke Skywalker in BB-8. BB-8, Nathan's deflated. Don't worry, I'm not getting angry at you. I'm getting angry.
BB-8 was a cool little idea.
I didn't think I'd like BB-8, but I liked how they made him, how he actually looks cool. Except when he gets in all slapsticky things where he's flipping and flying around. That's silly. Anyway, so Poe puts the map into BB-8. BB-8 runs away. Kylo finds Poe, takes him up to the Star Destroyer, and starts interrogating him, finds out that Poe put the map in BB-8, and then Finn comes and breaks out to Poe, but only because he needs a pilot, because he can't fly on his own. So he's not doing it for any other sense than he needs someone to pilot the ship. They automatically become friends, which doesn't make any sense. But they're all already like, yeah, buddy, cool, and they like fist bump, and it's like a thing, and it's funny, and whatever.
I interpreted that as Poe being eager to charm someone into helping him, like that. It's not enthusiastically saying, "Yeah, buddy, let's do this."
It's not, because it comes up later in the movie where they're best friends automatically. Anyway, and originally Poe was supposed to die. Like he was literally only there to get Finn off. If they wanted to get Finn off the thing, they should have just made Finn a pilot, or they should have just made Finn push the autopilot thing on and ship. Anyway, it doesn't matter, but. Anyway, so they escape from the Star Destroyer and they crash back on Jakku. So it's like, why do they go back onto the ship if all they were going to do is go back to Jakku, where BB-8 and where the actual story is happening? Poe disappears. He's suspected to be dead. Then Finn finds Rey, who has already found BB-8. So all that stuff on the Star Destroyer isn't really necessary. All that stuff with Poe isn't really necessary. Poe is a non-character. He shouldn't really exist, even though I love Oscar Isaac, and Poe is probably my favourite part of the movie just because of Oscar Isaac. So we don't need that anyway. So they find the Millennium Falcon, they blast off into space, and then they automatically get found by Han Solo and Chewbacca, who just happen to find them somehow. I don't know. It's just beyond stupid. Meanwhile, they haven't jumped to hyperspace as far as I can tell in the movie. So the Star Destroyer that was orbiting Jakku didn't even notice that they had blasted off the planet. That doesn't make any sense. In the original movie, when the Millennium Falcon blasts off of Tatooine, the Star Destroyers are already there chasing them before they jump to lightspeed. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, so they're flying around. They get found by Han Solo, and Han Solo then gets found by the bounty hunters, which the Rathtar sequence, which is just so bad and just gives me a migraine. Like, it's prequel levels of terrible CGI crap. And I didn't like the bounty hunters, either. That didn't. I won't get into that. But anyway, then they jump to lightspeed in the hangar bay, which is another thing. It just lightspeed is now magic, where they can just jump to lightspeed in the middle of whatever. Then they go to Maz, who's this new character who we don't really need, and they're like, can you get BB-8 to the Resistance? And she's like, no. And then the First Order shows up, and then Leia shows up with the Resistance. And it's like, why didn't they just skip Maz's planet completely? Go straight. Han Solo should have just taken them straight to Leia, and Leia and Rey should have had that relationship building that Rey and Maz had instead, which didn't make any sense because Maz is, why is she there? Who's this? Who's this? Old Yoda ripoff. And all the lines of dialogue that Maz gives to Rey don't make any sense. She's like, I'm no Jedi, but I know about the Force. I'm like, why wasn't this stuff that Leia was telling Rey? Like, I'm not, Luke's the Jedi, but I'll tell you about what he told me. Like,
I completely
agree.
Exactly. And there's a point, because also they find Luke Skywalker in Maz Kanata's planet as well. I'm like, why?
No, that's a different planet.
Different planet. Never mind.
Yeah. That would have been so stupid. I would have.
There was the vision though. There was the vision, which caused more problems.
That's another problem that I won't get into. But then she finds the lightsaber in the bottom of Maz's
that's what I'm talking about. Maz's
castle thing.
Thingy, yeah.
The lightsaber. You said she finds Luke.
No, I said the lightsaber. I meant the lightsaber. Yeah, she finds the lightsaber. Yeah. Which she could have found the lightsaber on the Millennium Falcon.
No. She should have Leia should have had Rey's. Leia should have had Luke's lightsaber.
Anywhere else would have made more sense than where we found it in this
given
movie.
it to Rey, and then again you get that more bonding between those characters who don't meet until the end of the movie when they hug, and it doesn't make any sense.
That's right, because
poor Chewie, man, poor Chewie.
Poor Chewie gets ignored.
Yeah, and Leia
gets a cold shoulder from Leia, like in zero sense.
Exactly, Leia could have been like, "Look, I feel something in you. I can feel the Force through you. Why don't you hold this lightsaber?"
Also,
and then she could have got the vision. Also,
it was necessary. It's stupid enough that they brought back the old lightsaber that was lost on Cloud City. Like, it doesn't. I don't care how they explain it in Last Jedi, if they explain it at all. It doesn't need to come back. The only reason they brought it back is because Disney and J.J. Abrams have this twisted idea that it's the Skywalker family lightsaber and it has to go through all the lines of the new movies.
A lightsaber's a lightsaber,
it's this
bro.
Stupid, not even that. It's this stupid idea that that legacy and nostalgia override story and character and make things that make sense.
Remember
and logic.
Luke's lightsaber?
Yeah, exactly.
I remember, yeah.
Now, it would have made more sense if when Luke went into exile, he left his lightsaber with Leia, and then Leia gives Rey his green lightsaber, the new lightsaber. That would have been much more powerful, would have made much more sense. And as a character choice for Luke, would have made sense because he's given up fighting. He's given up his sword.
Also, at this point now,
I'm so done. I hate this movie so much.
And that's man versus movies.
Just to also a little bit of
almost took up the whole show. We're going to move on now because
a little bit of a sidetrack with some of the spoiler-free opinions and feelings that have come out with the new movie. They'd said some veteran characters, a little bit of a tease, some veteran characters, how they deal with being more powerful than anyone can imagine. Now, I'm just assuming that that's in relation to Luke.
Yeah.
So if he's so powerful that he probably doesn't even need his lightsaber anyway, so he's just like, why do I care?
It would have been really cool if Rey found Luke, less than halfway through the movie, and she presents him with the lightsaber like she does at the end of the movie, and he's like, you know what, kid, you keep it. You're the Jedi now. I'm the master. I'm so zen. I don't need to fight. I've learned that fighting leads to the dark side. I will teach you the things I know, and you can be the new character.
Exactly.
That would have made so much sense. The passing of the torch from Luke to Rey should have been what Force Awakens was about. Instead, Luke is completely absent from the movie. Leia does nothing. Han Solo sleepwalks through the film, and the film becomes pointless. Callum, go on. Sorry.
I was going to say, if he's supposed to be so powerful and he doesn't want to be found, wouldn't he just mask his presence? But then I realized myself. Then I realized myself that the reason they found him in the first place is because he's so shook up from feeling the force vibrations from Starkiller Base killing everyone.
See, like
then he's like, I
didn't really get a sense of that either. But then, I mean, there's so much. Then, literally, there's a scene where BB-8 finds R2, who's just in a corner somewhere. Like, why didn't they give him a little room? Like, why was he just under a blanket in a corner? Like, it's so messed up. And then, BB-8 beeps, and C-3PO says, "Oh no, I don't think
he's depressed without Master Luke."
Yeah, but I which is stupid on its own. But I don't think R2 would have the rest of the map in his backup data. Let's move on. And then they ignore it till the end of the movie when R2 just happens to wake up after all the events of the movie happen. It's like Deus Ex R2 or something. He wakes up and, he actually did have the rest of the map, and he projects it, and BB-8 projects the little part of the map he had. And it's just like, what the hell is this? Like, they're just making shit up. Like, they wrote the whole movie, and then like, how do they get the rest of the map? R2 had it the whole time.
It's like I've said before. It's like they hire undergraduates. Not that there's anything wrong with undergraduates, but it's like they hire
they do
first
one
or second
draft,
year uni level script writers to produce their scripts, and then there's like no drafts after that.
We'll see how we go as the movie moves on.
It's like they write and they're like, we're kind of writing ourselves into a corner. Just have a character come in and fix it all.
On a high note, Rian Johnson is a step above these people.
Rian Johnson's very good with character, and I think he'll do a much better job.
So I think that you shouldn't listen to what we say about the Force Awakens story as an indication of what the Last Jedi is.
We'll talk about that in a minute about why that couldn't work.
On an unrelated note, at or AT-AT?
We've discussed this on the last special. It's AT-AT because the AT-ST you can't say at-sit.
Yeah.
So at you can't say. I mean, you can if you want. I'm not going to argue, but to me, it's AT-AT.
Good man.
Anyway, two more things and we'll move on. C-3PO's red arm, stupid. To sell toys, whatever. It's not a big deal.
That didn't really bother me.
It's a nitpick. Doesn't bother me. But he mentions it quite clearly to Han Solo. Like, whatever. He could have got that arm in any number of ways. He has a silver leg in all of the original trilogy. It makes sense. Whatever. But then at the end of the movie, he has his arm replaced with his old gold arm, and no one mentions it. Like, he's clearly waving with his new gold arm, but there's like no. And I'm like. Again, this could have been more character development in the movie. R2 could have waken up and could have replaced C-3PO's arm with his old one as a way of character bonding, because those are the two characters who have always been together, And C-3PO only trusts R2 to do repairs or whatever, Just little things here and there. I could go on all night and all nights after this about Force Awakens and why it's so terrible and why the originals are so good, but we've already, blasted through most of the time. So we'll talk... Oh, wait, one more thing. Creed is a movie I really loved from the last couple of years.
Good movie.
It's a great movie, right? And one of the reasons I loved it so much is because I wasn't expecting it to be any good, because it's a long-awaited sequel to a, classic, beloved movie franchise. It's like, here we know another Rocky, but with a different guy, whoop-de-doo, But one of the reasons it's so great is because it takes the original, series, and it takes... the character of Rocky, who's now a lot older and sicker, it develops him alongside a newcomer, a new character who's, related to the franchise, Apollo Creed's son. And so not only do you develop this new character, you're also developing the classic original character, And that's Force Awakens should have been like Creed. You have the original characters passing the torch to you, the younger characters. You have the original characters developing their own, and you have the new characters developing to take the torch and continue the franchise for the future.
Mark Hamill actually talked during an interview. He said that you actually find Luke has a lot of growth in this film. Apparently, He says that it was nice to rediscover. Yeah, it was nice to rediscover the character and see how they grow. So I'm hoping that that's the kind of dynamic he and Rey might have, where he explains the Force is not black and white to Rey while training her. Like it might get to be that kind of like that purity of youth and that kind of grizzled jadedness that Luke is supposedly has.
Yeah. So I mean, this is a problem. It's like, why didn't the stuff in Last Jedi happen in The Force Awakens? Everything I'm seeing, I still haven't seen Last Jedi, of course, hasn't come out yet, but everything I'm seeing in the Last Jedi trailers looks like it should have been the first movie in the new trilogy. Like, here's the passing of the torch, Here's this new character who's come to train with Luke. Here's the bad character, whatever. So, for me, I mean, like I said, Force Awakens is a non-movie. It's unnecessary if all the character development and all the growth and all the world building is going to come in The Last Jedi.
I feel like a part of the problem with Force Awakens is they tried to fit too much into one film. It's all rushed. So as a result, every story point that they attempt is kind of rushed.
But it's also, like I said, most of it's pointless. Like most of it shouldn't have happened. It should have just been condensed, and they should have taken those. They should have taken that crap that shouldn't have happened and used those minutes towards Luke. Those minutes towards Leia.
This isn't the first time I've said it, and I'm sure I'll say it again in relation to other franchises.
Yeah.
But people need to take a page out of Peter Jackson's book. You know, like with the Lord of the Rings movies, that's a long, drawn-out story, but it's told in a way that is natural.
But see, with the original movies, they're only about 2 hours each, and you get all you need from those 2 hours. Whereas Force Awakens is the longest Star Wars movie, other than Last Jedi, which will be the longest. And yet nothing happens.
I agree. If they wanted to analog the originals and do it in an effective way, I think you're right. It would have been better with Rey as a child being dropped at Luke's doorstep or something in seclusion, and then he has to play the Ben Kenobi figure, and she's now playing the Luke figure of the young Padawan who's, force sensitive and uncertain how to use her abilities.
Exactly.
And they could have done anything. They could have done anything they wanted.
You know, I think that
they chose the most. They chose the reboot. They chose the nostalgia. They chose the hey guys, remember this. They didn't choose. They didn't choose the best option for how do we further the story and the characters in the world.
I think it's a good case study for the difference between how films were made back in the era of the original Star Wars and now.
And that's what I keep telling people, is the original movies aren't just good because of the lasers and the lightsabers and the spaceships and stuff.
I mean,
they're good because of the storytelling, because of the world building.
We can see that even with Blade Runner, you know, the original contrasted to 2049. It's the same thing.
Well, that's a bit of a different case, but so I guess we've, like I said, gone through most of the time already. I apologise. But Last Jedi, who are Rey's parents? Who is Snoke? Who are the Knights of Ren? What has Luke been doing this whole time? And why the hell does Maz have Luke's old lightsaber? So
we answered some of those questions.
I mean, not really. None of that information is in The Force Awakens. And like I said...
What do the visions mean?
Yeah, and if that stuff is in Last Jedi... that's good, I guess, but why do I have to watch The Last Jedi to understand Force Awakens? So that's ridiculous.
There was that reviewer who said that Rian Johnson wields plot holes like weapons. So I'm hoping he took time to think about the problems in Force Awakens and tries, because I'm sure he's forced into a structure he has to follow. So hopefully he did his best.
Like I've said, Rian Johnson's really good with the characters, and I think he'll do a good job, trying to fix those problems that happen in The Force Awakens. But I think similar to Justice League, it's like the foundations are rotten. The Force Awakens had so many problems and sort of rebooted the world into a nostalgia foundation where it's like anything now coming off The Force Awakens it's not going to stand, because one, you've got the terrible design of the stormtroopers and the TIE fighters, and everything looks the same, but at the same time looks kind of plasticky and weird and modern and doesn't really work. But also, just the world and the characters, it's like the foundation's rotten. And so Last Jedi might be really good, and I think Rian Johnson will do a really good job, but the fact that he has to base his movie on J.J. Abrams' inferior movie,
I think that it also shows that they're giving Rian Johnson a trilogy. Now, whether that means he gets to write and direct the first one or he gets control of all three, I'm not sure.
I'm assuming it's all three, because I don't think you'd give a guy like that a trilogy and then say, hey, if you
yeah, I mean, at the very least,
unless he decides not
I'm
to
hoping that he gets to basically showrun the trilogy, if you know what I mean.
I hope so, yeah.
He gets control of the trilogy.
Like I said, if that's unrelated to the Skywalkers, and that's
apparently it is.
I've heard that it is, but that'll be good.
It's a whole new playground, because he said that he wants. There was an interview he did where he said he wants. It's like a playground to him.
Yeah.
And the idea of him being able to forge a new legacy unrelated to George Lucas's characters excites him. I can't remember where I read that, but I think that it reinforces the idea that maybe his work was so good that they said, maybe we'll leave creative control to you and see how that plays out.
I think that'll work out well. I think he's a really good filmmaker that I like, and that'll free him up to be more creative.
What do you reckon they'll call it? Do you reckon they'll go the episode 10 route? Probably not, because that's related to the Skywalkers.
I think all the... Kathleen Kennedy has said that all the numbered sequels will be related to Skywalker lineage and that, but I guess his will be a series of spin-offs.
Star Wars subtitle one.
Yeah, something like that. We've got the Solo movie, Solo Star Wars.
Can we just skip that one altogether? Just shut down production.
Completely unnecessary. We don't need it at all. We don't need to see how Han met Chewie. We don't need to see how Han got his vest. We don't need to see how Han got his Millennium Falcon. Matt just came in the studio. He's like, F Force Awakens, F Han Solo movie. It's just pointless.
See my vest?
Yeah, see my vest. Oh, if they do a musical number. See, maybe Lord and Miller had a musical number where it was See My Vest, and then that's when Kathleen Kennedy was like, nope. Matt's coming.
Movie ever.
Yeah, see, Matt's not even a massive Star Wars fan, and even I went to see Force Awakens with him, and even he was like, what the hell was that? So, what else? The live-action TV show that's been announced. They've been talking about that for like 15 years now. I'm not expecting it to be any good. Now that Disney has the control, I mean, they'll have, I guess, the production behind it. But in terms of the story and all that, I don't care anymore. The series will obviously give them the opportunity to sort of build the world and the characters, because I guess they'll have multiple episodes. And if it's like a premium cable type television show where they'd get to develop, the characters.
The only thing I'd be uncertain with this show is like, because it's Disney, are they going to be leaning more towards the sort of family friendly market?
Exactly, yeah.
I don't see them going like the premium Netflix sort of Marvel.
I don't think it'll be a
Punisher
Game of
with
Thrones.
Jedis. As much as I think that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, a Game of Thrones type show with Star Wars world and characters would be amazing. But yeah, they'll probably go more towards the ABC kind of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., kind of more family friendly.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is good.
Yeah, but
this season is amazing.
I don't think it's as good as the Netflix stuff. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's kind of
It's
a different it's a different kind of show. So Disney is also in talks to purchase Fox, which
is I think is a good thing.
Yeah,
it's
no,
good. It's good for it's good for it's good for the Marvel. We'll get X-Men. We'll get Fantastic Four. But for the overall picture, it's just more monopoly, more corporations owning more of
it has
what we
it
love.
has impacts for the whole society, because
Yeah.
if Disney acquires Fox, they acquire
Yeah.
Fox News, and that means that
That's
they can
true,
that
yeah.
means that they can stop the. I'm sorry to get political.
No, that's all right.
That
go
means
on.
that if Disney wanted to, they could curb the conservative brainwashing
Yeah.
that occurs throughout America,
I
but
mean,
the world as a whole.
I think Disney's recognized that Fox News is a brand and they can make more money off that conservative side.
Yeah, but like if they
I
have
don't
control,
know.
it's not.
Yeah.
Disney by itself is not a political entity,
Yeah.
so they might. Anyway, that's a discussion for another day.
Then of course you get the fact that they'll be owning things like Simpsons and Family Guy and Futurama. So we might get all this Disney factory stuff of all the stuff we used to love. It could be good, could be bad.
Disney did well by Marvel. I mean, Marvel
True.
was at one point in quite a state.
Yeah, true.
And Disney kind of breathed life back into that
Marvel,
engine.
And Marvel will get the rights back to the X-Men.
They will, exactly. So that'll be good.
And they'll get Star Wars. They'll get the
And
rights to publish A New Hope again.
They'll get the distribution rights
Yeah,
to
to New
the
Hope.
original Star Wars.
Disney also
so-
intervened with Electronic Arts with the all the Battlefront controversy.
Yeah, but
So-
we'll see how far that goes in the
No,
future.
but my point is Disney tend to do right by the properties they own.
Nah.
Disney
More
tend
or
to do
less.
right by public perception.
Yeah, and they do right by money. But yeah, so that means they'll own the rights. I think Fox has the rights for the original Star Wars forever, I think, whereas Disney owns the distribution rights for Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi separately from that. So now if Disney owns Fox, then they'll have the rights to all three original movies. So it does take us one step closer to a proper release of the theatrical unaltered versions, but I'm
Now-
not getting my hopes up.
Imagine if that happened, and then they did a theatrical run in theaters.
I would pay
So
so much money.
like 4K restorations of the originals.
Like, I would honestly pay like $200 just for a Blu-ray set.
I was
of the
fantasizing
original
earlier. Like TV advertisements,
See,
everything, like a full-blown theater campaign.
I have this really bad feeling that when George Lucas signed over the rights of Star Wars, that there was a clause in the contract that says you can't release theatrical versions.
That sounds like George.
It sounds like something petty that he would do, and like it might be even something like in the future if he passes away, like then we might be able to see it. But like then if his kids or his estate like
See, I mean,
enforce it, like it's-
Hopefully Disney can just be like, oops, I dropped a master tape in public.
It was leaked online.
Whoops, sorry.
Well,
I wouldn't want this to go circulating anywhere.
it's one of those things that, you know, the premium theatrical Blu-ray set pops up on Amazon for one day, and then everyone buys it, and then it disappears.
Sorry,
and
that was due to a clerical
whoops,
error.
Yeah, we didn't mean to do that. But yeah, and also Lucasfilm apparently has announced they're going to start production on an Obi-Wan Kenobi Star Wars spin-off movie in early 2019.
When-
Could be good.
Where in the Star Wars universe would that take place?
Tatooine.
It's
please.
now here's the thing. If it takes place in the prequel era, which Disney has fair enough tried to diss themselves from, and which people don't really generally like. I know people like Ewan McGregor. I like Ewan McGregor as well. I think he did a good job as Obi-Wan despite the prequel movies. But, you know, if they set in the prequel era, people aren't really going to be happy about that. If they set it in between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, I guess, will most of it take place on Tatooine? Will they have young Luke running around? Like, how will that work?
I hope it's somewhat like a proper Western.
Maybe.
Like a grizzled sort of Obi-Wan. He's
That
just
would
trying
be
to,
cool.
you know, keep peace on his planet.
I think, you know,
While keeping a watch on
for
Luke.
me, you know, like with most of these spin-offs, like, we don't need them. They're unnecessary. We don't need to see how this person got to this place. So, yeah, I'm not looking forward to that. You know, I've been talking about a Boba Fett movie because he's a well-liked character. But as I mentioned, like, there's no way they can capture that original amazing Boba Fett that I love so much.
Yeah.
And of course, like, then you get into the problem of, if they're going to go for the canon route where technically the prequels are canon, then Boba Fett has to be from New Zealand, apparently, which doesn't really make sense, and you know, and I don't like, and then you know, if they don't go that route, and it's like then they have to ignore the prequels, and then it's just a whole mess that I don't want to.
I mean, look, realistically, none of the spin-off movies should be made, but Disney needs a movie a year.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's they've turned Star Wars from something special into just churning them out, factory farming, just, you know,
'Cause,
like
like,
cookie cutter plots, just
as much as-
inoffensive.
As much as we all love Star Wars here, I'd much rather have a movie every other year or every 2 or 3 years than to have like a movie every single year.
Yeah,
where
I mean,
we know they're going to be pretty average.
like after Rogue One, I was already fatigued, and you can imagine, you know, after Han Solo, I'm going to be, you know. But like I said, if it has the Star Wars movie name on it, people are going to love it.
Yeah.
People are going to go see it. So
I think, well, you know, I think there could be a change in the wind in a few years because Quentin Tarantino is doing a Star Trek movie. So,
oh man, I don't know
Well-
what's going to happen with that. Jeez.
He wants it to
you
be
know,
R-rated too.
if
I
that does
know.
really well, if that
Wow.
does really, really well,
But then,
That
but then
could
see,
affect the
then-
Star Wars.
Jackson is the engineer.
Then we get into more problems of, is it going to be set into the J.J. Abrams universe, which is going to suck. J.J.
I'm pretty sure J.J. Abrams is on board with it.
J.J. Abrams is a producer or whatever, so it's like, I don't want him to be involved because I don't like him. So it's like, then it's going to be set in the new universe and not in the classic Star Wars universe. And it's just, and there's no way they're going to release an R-rated Star Trek movie. No way. So,
Well, they're making it.
at the end of the day, you know, Tarantino will write a version of the script. J.J. Abrams will rewrite it so it's like loses all the things
edge.
that people want, all the edge. It'll be an inoffensive, you know, crappy J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie with some lens flare. Who cares? I don't care. It's not going to be good. It probably won't even get made. I mean, there is enough fan, you know, they want it, so it might get close. It might come out. I don't know. I don't know. I can't see the future. I'm not Yoda. Even Yoda couldn't see the future. We've gone through the entire hour, smashed through it. Thank you everyone for listening. Be sure to tune in next week, 98.9 Northwest FM at 6 p.m. for the Last Jedi review. We'll be back in the studio talking about Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi.
The odds are it's going to be another rant episode.
Most likely it'll just be me complaining more about Force Awakens.
Look, I hope there's a few things. I hope there's a few things positive that we can say next week.
Like, honestly, I hope it's good. I hope I like it. I never go into a movie saying, I hope this sucks. You know, I hope this is bad. Like, I love Rian Johnson. I think he'll do a good job. But, you know, I'm not getting my hopes up because I know I'm going to be disappointed. But, I hope it's really good. I hope I really like it. And yeah, I mean, there's nothing else I can say. So, yeah, thank you all again. Thank you, Callum and Nathan, for coming in.
It's okay.
I really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for listening to my ranting and raving. Be sure to like and share the Man vs. Movies Facebook page, rate, review, and subscribe the Man vs. Movies iTunes. You can listen to the podcast on iTunes, Shout Engine, or wherever you listen to podcasts on your regular podcasting app. And be sure to listen to the first Star Wars special, which was episode 8 of Man vs. Movies, which you can also download. And be sure to tune in next week, or if you can't tune in live, then the podcast will hopefully be up next week pretty soon. Thank you all again. May the Force be with you, and catch you later.
We hope you enjoyed this special flashback episode. What you just heard was a re-upload of an old show. If you'd like to keep up with our current show, The Tuesday Review, please like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Tuesday Review AU, and rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes and Apple Podcasts. You can find The Tuesday Review wherever you listen to podcasts. Adios, cousins.